Welcome back to the deep dive. We're here to, really get into the core of things that matter.
That's the goal.
And today, we're tackling something huge, something that feels, well, incredibly relevant right now. It's this question. How do we navigate a world that feels so chaotic sometimes? Full of conflict, heavy responsibilities, just constant noise. And how do we do that while still trying to find some kind of inner peace?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? That search for a calm center when everything outside is swirling, it's deeply human.
It really is. And, the answers don't always come from where you'd expect. Not always the latest bestseller or workshop.
Right. Sometimes the most powerful guidance is, well, it's been waiting for us for centuries.
Exactly. Because today, we're not looking at a modern guru. We're actually going way back almost 2,000 years.
We are.
We're diving deep into the personal notes, the private journal of a Roman emperor, Marcus Aurelius.
His meditation.
Yeah, the meditations. And they feel less like an ancient philosophical text and more like a spiritual operating system.
That's a great way to put it. An instruction manual, almost.
For building resilience, finding virtue, achieving that sense of calm, even when things are tough.
And what makes it so compelling, I think, is that he wasn't writing this for an audience. These weren't lectures or essays meant for publication.
No, not at all.
These were his thoughts, his reminders to himself, a conversation he was having internally.
Which gives them this incredible honesty, right? It's raw. You feel like you're looking over his shoulder.
Absolutely. It speaks across the ages because it's so fundamentally human, despite his, rather unique job title.
Definitely. So our mission today, let's really deep dive into this ancient wisdom, not just Marcus Aurelius, but we'll pull in some other voices too, other spiritual and philosophical ideas that echo this same search for inner calm.
Looking at that core idea.
The core idea, figuring out what you can actually control, and then, just as importantly, learning how to accept or let go of what you can't.
That fundamental Stoic principle.
Exactly. So get ready. We're exploring a really practical way to, well, not just survive, but maybe even thrive in this crazy world. Okay, so let's really picture this. Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor.
I mean, it's hard to even grasp the scale, isn't it?
Right. Think about the power, the responsibility. He's running this massive empire.
Dealing with wars on the borders constantly, political battles back in Rome. There was a major plague during his reign.
Devastating.
Yeah, plus just the day-to-day administration of millions of people. I mean, the sheer weight of it.
Talk about chaos and pressure.
Absolutely. And yet, amidst all that, almost daily, he turns inward. He writes in this journal his meditations.
As a way to stay grounded. To keep his own head straight.
Precisely. To maintain some kind of internal stability. To fortify himself. And that, for me, makes his search for peace so incredibly powerful and honestly relatable. We all face pressure, maybe not imperial pressure, but
it feels just as overwhelming sometimes, doesn't it?
It does, and that's the connection. He wasn't some monk meditating in a peaceful cave.
No, he was often on campaign. Writing in a tent near the battlefield.
Exactly. Surrounded by the grim realities of war, or back in Rome dealing with court intrigue and state affairs. The meditations weren't for show. They weren't for legacy. Not initially, anyway.
They were a tool.
A personal discipline. A mental workout. A way to constantly remind himself of his principles. To fight against his own, anger, frustration, despair.
The internal stuff.
The internal stuff. It was a dialogue with himself, trying to live up to his own demanding standards of virtue and duty. He was his own toughest coach.
You can really feel that when you read it. The way he repeats certain ideas, the direct commands to himself.
It's not polished prose.
No, it feels like someone genuinely working through things, trying to hammer these ideas into his own mind, not just understand them intellectually.
Which is why it's such a perfect example of philosophy as a practice.
Right, not just theory.
Exactly. And through his writing, we get introduced to these core ideas of Stoicism, which really, at its heart, is a super practical philosophy.
Aimed at what? What was the goal?
The goal was achieving, two key things. Ataraxia, which basically means tranquility, peace of mind, freedom from disturbance.
Okay.
And apatheia. Now, that word can be tricky. It doesn't mean apathy, like not caring.
Right, that's the modern meaning.
Yeah. For the Stoics, it meant freedom from being ruled by irrational passions, by emotional turmoil. So more like emotional equilibrium.
Got it. And he was well-versed in this stuff, right? He had teachers.
Oh, yes. He was seriously educated in philosophy.
Yeah.
He mentions his teachers like Apollonius of Chalcedon, and he knew the works of earlier Stoics really well, especially Epictetus.
Epictetus, the former slave who became a famous Stoic teacher.
That's the one. Marcus quotes him or refers to his ideas. So he's building on a long, deep tradition here. He's standing on the shoulders of giants, really.
So he's synthesizing this tradition, applying it in the intense crucible of his own life. And it seems to boil down to this really foundational question he keeps asking himself.
What's that?
He asks, essentially, how can you make sure that no one can truthfully say you're not simple, honest, and good?
That's a powerful challenge.
And then he gives this immediate, devastatingly simple answer. All this is in your own power.
Boom. Right there.
Yeah. It just cuts through everything. No excuses about circumstances or other people or bad luck.
It's all on you. Your character is your responsibility.
It's such a radical call to personal agency. Everything essential is already inside you.
Especially powerful coming from a guy who could literally order people around. He's not focused on controlling others. He's focused on controlling himself.
Which leads us right into that core Stoic idea, doesn't it? The fundamental divide.
The absolute cornerstone, recognizing what truly matters, what's actually in your own power.
Which isn't the external stuff. Not what happens, not what people think.
No, it's your judgments about what happens. It's your reactions. It's your character, your choices.
He asks, for what is he who hinders you to be good and single-hearted?
And the implied answer is always.
Nobody. Only yourself.
Right. No external force can make you act against your values unless you allow it. He even takes it a step further, doesn't he? Advising himself.
Yeah, it's pretty hardcore. He says something like, determined to live no longer if you are not to be such a man.
Wow. That's commitment.
It really underscores how absolutely vital he saw this internal integrity. It wasn't just a nice to have, it was the very definition of a life worth living. Your inner state, your character, is non-negotiable. Okay, so this idea of focusing only on what's in your power, your inner world, it feels ancient, but it also feels incredibly modern, doesn't it?
It really does. The language might change, but the core human challenge remains the same.
Like, think about Eckhart Tolle and The Power of Now. He says, the greater part of human pain is unnecessary. It is self-created as long as the unobserved mind runs your life.
Exactly. It's fascinating, isn't it? A Roman emperor dealing with military campaigns and plagues, and a modern spiritual teacher observing, everyday anxiety and stress.
And they land on such a similar point. Our minds create so much of our suffering.
They do. Marcus Aurelius, through his relentless self-examination, saw that it was his judgments about things, this is terrible, this is unfair, that caused the pain, not the things themselves.
He didn't have our modern psychology terms, but he got there through sheer introspection.
He did. What Tolle perhaps adds is a clearer framework for understanding that unobserved mind, identifying the ego, the mental chatter, the resistance patterns.
So Marcus talks about controlling judgments. Tolle talks about observing the ego.
But fundamentally, they're both pointing to the same inner battleground. The source of the problem and the solution lies within.
It really is about our reaction then, isn't it? It's less about the event, more about how we meet it inside.
That's precisely it. Michael Singer drives this home in The Untethered Soul. He says, the first problem you have to deal with is your own reaction.
Okay.
He argues that no solution can possibly exist while you're lost in the energy of a problem. Think about when you're really angry or scared. Can you think straight? Can you find creative solutions?
No way. You're just stuck in the feeling.
Exactly. You're lost in the energy. Singer suggests the real issue often isn't the external situation, but, and this is a key phrase, something inside of you that can have a problem with almost anything.
Ouch. That feels uncomfortably true sometimes.
Right. We develop these internal sensitivities, these triggers. And he says we resist the experience of the event passing through us, that feeling of disappointment, that surge of fear. We try to push it away, control it with willpower.
And that resistance creates tension.
Immense tension. That's where a lot of the suffering comes from, the internal fight against what you're feeling.
So if the problem starts with our internal reaction and resistance, then trying to fix things by just rearranging the external world, that's not going to work long term, is it?
It's usually just shuffling deck chairs on the Titanic, isn't it? We think, if only I had a different job, if only my partner would change, if only I had more money.
Then I'd be happy. Then I'd be peaceful.
But Marcus knew, and Singer reaffirms, that true peace isn't dependent on getting the external world perfectly arranged. It's about cultivating what Singer calls inner solution consciousness.
Inner solution consciousness.
Yeah.
I like that. What does it involve?
It means breaking that deep habit of thinking the fix is always out there. The only permanent solution, Singer argues, is to go inside and let go of the part of you that seems to have so many problems with reality.
Let go of the part that's constantly fighting what is.
Yes. When you release that internal resistance, that need for reality to conform to your preferences, you gain this incredible clarity. You can still act in the world, often more effectively, but you're not driven by that inner turmoil.
And this idea of inner purification, letting go, that resonates with other traditions too, right? Like Buddhism.
Absolutely. You see it clearly in texts like the Dhammapada. It talks about purifying the mind of its defilements, greed, hatred, delusion, and freeing oneself from attachment.
Which leads
To a state of clarity, of understanding, where you're without doubts. It's that same insight. Peace and clarity are an inside job. It comes from mastering what Marcus called your judgments, what Singer calls your inner resistance, what Buddhism calls your attachments. It's all about the internal landscape.
Okay, so we work on our inner reactions. We try to master our judgments. That's the inner solution consciousness. But, I mean, life still happens, right? Things occur that are genuinely outside our control. Illness, loss, accidents.
Definitely. You can't control everything, and this is where the other side of the Stoic coin comes in, acceptance. Embracing the uncontrollable.
And Marcus spends a lot of time on this. He seems to see this grander pattern in things, like a cosmic order.
He does. He uses phrases like things being prescribed by a nature presiding in the whole. There's the sense that events aren't just random and meaningless.
He has that analogy about the doctor, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's powerful. Like a doctor prescribes medicine or bed rest for your health. Maybe the universe or fate or providence prescribes certain events for the health of the whole cosmos.
Even difficult things, like disease or loss.
Yes. He suggests that what befalls us is somehow appointed as conducive to the purposes of fate. It's a challenging idea, but it shifts the perspective dramatically.
From victim of chaos to part of a plan.
Something like that. He talks about a grand, harmonious composition of all things, where everything fits together like perfectly cut stones in a wall. Each individual event, each life is part of this larger structure.
So it's not about liking what happens, necessarily.
No, not at all. It's about recognizing its place in the larger tapestry. It's an attempt to find meaning and order, even in apparent chaos, to trust that there's a bigger picture we might not fully grasp.
Which, if you can really internalize that, must make acceptance easier. Because fighting against it seems pointless, like fighting against gravity.
Exactly. It frames resistance as futile and, more importantly, as the very source of our suffering, which connects directly back to Tolle, right?
Yeah, the power of now. Pain as non-acceptance, as resistance to what is.
Tolle says the intensity of your pain often matches the degree of your resistance to the present moment.
Think about getting stuck in traffic. The traffic itself is neutral, really.
It just is.
But the internal screaming, the frustration, the wishing it were different, that's the suffering. That's the resistance.
Precisely. And Singer, in The Untethered Soul, echoes this by advising us to learn to stop resisting reality.
Easier said than done sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. It's a practice. But he suggests that if we can do this, those things we label stressful problems can actually become stepping stones on our spiritual path. They become opportunities to practice acceptance, to let go of resistance.
It requires that ability to step back, to see the pattern maybe, to connect the dots between the external event and our internal reaction.
Yes, that capacity for insight, for seeing how our own resistance fuels the fire, is crucial.
And this isn't just about minor annoyances like traffic, is it? This principle holds even in the face of profound suffering. I'm thinking of Viktor Frankl.
Man's search for meaning, a powerful example.
Right. In the concentration camps, surrounded by unimaginable horror and loss, he observed people who still found a way to choose their inner response. They fought to maintain their self-respect, their sense of being human.
They couldn't control the external reality, but they could control their attitude toward it.
He even mentions a woman facing death who found gratitude for her fate because it pushed her towards spiritual success, towards finding meaning. It's just an incredible acceptance.
It shows that acceptance isn't passive resignation. It's an active inner stance, a way of finding meaning and dignity regardless of circumstances. And this resonates deeply with other traditions, too.
Like which ones?
Well, the Philokalia, that collection of writings from the Eastern Orthodox tradition, emphasizes patient acceptance of trials and understanding divine providence as absolutely essential for spiritual growth, for developing perfect love.
Patience and trust in a bigger picture.
Yes. And look at Theologia Germanica, that medieval mystical text. It talks about the apostles and martyrs.
How they face suffering.
How they suffered willingly and gladly, not asking God to make it shorter or easier, but only asking for the strength to remain steadfast, to endure.
Again, not about liking the pain, but about meeting it with inner strength and acceptance.
Exactly. It's about cultivating that unshakable inner core, realizing that peace isn't about having a trouble-free life, but about finding calm within the trouble.
Okay, so we're mastering our reactions,
Yeah.
accepting what we can't control. But why? What's the point of all this inner work? Marcus Aurelius seems to suggest it's about living a life of virtue.
Yes, living in accordance with our nature. He says we should find delight, find joy in doing those things which are properly suitable to the frame and constitution of man.
Acting in alignment with our highest self, our true nature. But what is that? How do we know what's properly suitable? That feels like a big question.
It is a huge question, and different traditions offer different perspectives. Conversations with God, for example, offers a really expansive view.
What does it say?
It suggests the soul's purpose is essentially creative, to decide and to declare, to create and to express, to experience and to fulfill who you really are.
Wow.
It's about constantly choosing and becoming the grandest version of the greatest vision ever you had about who you really are.
So virtue in that sense is living out that grandest vision, being your most authentic, highest self.
Exactly. It's less about following a set of external rules and more about tuning into that inner potential and expressing it.
But getting there often means letting go of,
So.
well, the parts of us that aren't that grandest version, right?
Yeah.
The smaller self.
Yes, definitely. There's often a process of shedding involved. Theologia Germanica talks about this quite directly. It contrasts the old man, which it identifies with Adam and disobedience, the self, the me.
Sounds like the ego again, driven by desires, wanting things its own way.
Pretty much. And it contrasts this with the new man, identified with Christ and true obedience. This involves a giving up and denying oneself of all temporal things, seeking only God's honor.
A kind of dying to self, letting go of attachments to pleasure, ego, personal gain.
Precisely. Dying to the I, the self, and all that is thereof. It sounds stark, but it's framed as a necessary step towards embodying that higher nature.
And this isn't unique to that text, is it? That idea of self-transcendence.
Not at all. Aldous Huxley, in The Perennial Philosophy, discusses this concept, calling it self-nodding, or deliberate dying to self.
Self-nodding. Interesting term.
And he stresses that it's seen across wisdom traditions as an indispensable means, a necessary tool to reach the divine, eternal fullness of life.
So it's not an end in itself, not about self-punishment.
No, never. It's always a means to a greater end. It's about clearing away the obstacles, the ego, the attachments, the lower desires, so that the true virtuous self can shine through, like clearing weeds so the flowers can grow.
Okay, that makes sense. So how do we actually do that? How do we cultivate this virtuous action day to day? It sounds like a lot of work.
It is a process, definitely. And again, traditions offer practical guidance. The Philokalia is incredibly detailed on this.
How so?
It talks about achieving deliverance from passions, seeing these strong negative emotions or desires as the root of trouble. It advocates spiritual warfare, which is really about intense self-observation and inner discipline.
Okay.
And uprooting the soul's predilection for the flesh, moving beyond being ruled by base impulses. But it gets very specific. It literally lists passions and their corresponding virtues. For example, conquer gluttony with self-control. Conquer lust with desire for God or spiritual longing. Conquer avarice or greed with compassion for others.
Wow, it's like a manual for inner transformation.
It really is. Conquer anger with goodwill and love. Worldly sadness with spiritual joy. Listlessness or acedia, that sense of spiritual sloth with patience and perseverance. Self-esteem or vanity with doing good deeds secretly. And pride, the root of many issues, with humility.
That's incredibly practical. It gives you actual things to work on, specific virtues to cultivate against specific vices.
Exactly. It shows that virtue isn't just a vague ideal. It's built through consistent, conscious, inner effort.
And the motivation for all this effort, it is not about getting brownie points or looking good, right?
No, the highest motivation is much purer. Theologia Germanica puts it beautifully. When someone has this inward sight, they do good for its own sake. They love goodness because it's good.
I love goodness because it is good and for the sake of goodness.
Yes. It's a love that has quitted all self and me and mine. It's completely unselfish. And Eric Fromm, writing much later in The Art of Loving, touches on this too.
How does he frame it?
He distinguishes real activity, not just being busy, as the use of man's inherent powers, whether or not it produces an external result. It's about expressing your potential. He connects this to Spinoza's idea that virtue and power are the same thing.
So being virtuous is being powerful in an inner sense.
Yes. And Fromm defines love itself as this kind of activity, the practice of a human power. And crucially, it can be practiced only in freedom and never as the result of a compulsion.
So true virtue, true love has to be freely chosen. It comes from within, not from external pressure or for external reward.
Exactly. It's the authentic expression of your highest nature.
This idea of acting freely, authentically, from our highest nature, it seems like that can only really happen in the present moment, doesn't it?
That feels right. So much of our mental energy gets caught up elsewhere.
Yeah, we're either stuck in the past, regrets, replaying conversations, old hurts, or we're lost in the future, worrying, planning, anticipating.
It's constantly projected.
But so many traditions, including Stoicism, implicitly point to the now as the only place where life actually happens, the only place we have any real power.
It's the point of action. And there's a fascinating, almost paradoxical perspective on this from C.S. Lewis.
Oh, from the Screwtape Letters.
Yes, where the senior demon, Screwtape, is advising his nephew Wormwood on how to tempt humans.
Right, it's written from the demon's point of view.
And Screwtape says something profound. He says humans live in time, but God intends them for eternity. So God wants them focused on two things: eternity itself and the present moment.
Why the present?
Because, Screwtape says, the present is the point at which time touches eternity. He calls it the only point where freedom and actuality are offered them.
Wow. So the present is where we connect with something timeless, where real choice exists.
According to Screwtape's twisted logic, yes. That's why he wants humans distracted from the present, lost in the past or future. The advice for humans, from God's perspective, is to be concerned either with eternity, their connection to the divine, or with the present.
Doing what in the present?
Obeying conscience, dealing with the immediate challenge, bearing the present cross, receiving grace, or simply giving thanks for present joys. It elevates the now to this crucial interface between the temporal and the eternal.
That's a really striking way to think about it. It makes you realize how often we're not present, how often we're missing that point of contact.
We live most of our lives mentally absent from the only time that truly exists.
So practically speaking, how do we cultivate that presence? How do we train ourselves to actually be here now?
Well, this is where practices like mindfulness come in. Sam Harris, in Waking Up, gives a clear definition.
What's it take?
He describes mindfulness as a vivid awareness of whatever is appearing in one's mind or body, thoughts, sensations, moods, without grasping at the pleasant or recoiling from the unpleasant.
So just noticing, without judgment.
Yes, and crucially, it's not about thinking about your experience more clearly, it's about experiencing more clearly, even noticing the thoughts themselves as they arise and pass.
Okay. And there are specific techniques for this.
Definitely. Tara Brach, in Radical Acceptance, offers some really helpful ones. Like when you notice your mind wandering off into thought.
Which happens like every 5 seconds for me.
For most of us,
Yeah.
she suggests you can gently note, internally, thinking, and then mutely guide your attention back maybe to the feeling of your breath or the sensations in your body, that energetic field of aliveness.
Just a gentle acknowledgement and redirect.
Exactly. No harshness. Another common practice she mentions is the body scan, systematically bringing awareness to different parts of your body, just noticing sensations. It anchors you in the physical reality of the present moment.
So it's about training the attention, bringing it back again and again.
It is. It's like building a muscle.
But how do we move from just noticing thoughts to that feeling of complete immersion, that sense of really being part of the present, like Siddhartha experiences in the novel?
That's a great question. The noticing is often the doorway. It creates a little space, so you're not completely fused with your thoughts. But that deep immersion, the power of now talks about consciousness being like a field of awareness.
That can narrow or expand.
Right. When it narrows too much, like when you're totally lost in worry, you lose that broader sense of self, that observer perspective. You're just in the thought stream. Think of being completely absorbed in a movie. You forget yourself. The goal isn't necessarily to stay narrowly focused, but to expand awareness to include everything, the sounds, sights, feelings, while also maintaining that background awareness, that sense of being the observer. It's being fully present to the experience without being swept away by it.
The kind of active surrender to the now.
That's a good way to put it. Letting go of the inner commentary, the judging, the planning, and just allowing reality to be as it is right now.
Which brings us back to that idea of the unbroken now, like in conversations with God.
Yes, that radical perspective. There is no time but now. There is no place but here. Here and now is all there is.
Our minds chop it up into past, present, future to make sense of it. But fundamentally, it's all one moment.
That's the idea, that we perceive it sequentially to explore it, but ultimately it's a single, unified field of existence. And Siddhartha captures that feeling of awakening to it so beautifully.
Remind me of that part.
When he finally realizes all of this had always existed and he had not seen it, he had not been with it. Now he was with it. He was part of it. Light and shadow ran through his eyes. Stars and moon ran through his heart.
Wow, that's not just observing the now, that's becoming the now. A total merging with reality.
Exactly. It's that shift from being a separate self looking at life to being an expression of life itself.
That sense of merging, of being fully present, feels like it must bring a tremendous sense of freedom. Freedom from things, maybe, like worrying what others think.
Absolutely. Freedom from attachment. And Marcus Aurelius points right at this when he talks about reputation.
Remind me.
He says, essentially, strive to be simple, candid, and good. But if someone mistakenly thinks you're not, let them be mistaken.
Don't let their opinion define you.
Exactly. It points to an inner conviction, an inner source of validation that doesn't depend on external approval. Your goodness is your own business, in a way.
And that resonates so strongly with modern ideas too, doesn't it? Like in the Fifth Agreement.
Oh, definitely. Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. puts it so bluntly. People live in their own world, in their own movie, in their own story.
So what they think of you
Is really about the image they have of you, and that image isn't you.
that's incredibly liberating if you can really grasp it. Their judgment says more about them and their movie than it does about you.
It completely reframes criticism, and praise too, actually. It helps detach you from that roller coaster of seeking approval and fearing disapproval, a huge source of suffering for many people.
And it's not just attachment to opinions, right? It's attachment to, well, everything else we cling to. Possessions, status, identity.
All of it. The Power of Now lists them out. Possessions, your job, social standing, knowledge, looks, abilities, relationships, even your personal history and beliefs.
Things we think are us.
Yes, the ego identifies with them deeply, but Tully makes the stark point. All these things we'll have to relinquish sooner or later. You can't take them with you.
Which leads to that rather chilling advice.
Die before you die. Consciously practice letting go of these identifications now while you're alive. Detach from them internally. Realize they are not the true you. Then, when physical death comes, it's less of a shock, less of a struggle, because you've already released your grip on the non-essential.
It sounds less morbid and more like preparation for freedom.
It is. It's about living more lightly, more freely, right now. And you see this echoed in Buddhism, too. The Dhammapada describes the ideal person, the Brahma.
Not as a caste, but as a spiritually advanced person.
Right. As someone who has no longings for this world and for the beyond, someone without longing, released. They've moved beyond attachment, both the meritorious and the detrimental.
Beyond attaching even to good things.
Yes. It's about non-clinging altogether. A radical freedom from needing things to be a certain way, inside or out.
Okay, so if we cultivate this non-attachment, this dying before you die, what does that do to our relationships? Especially love. Love feels like the ultimate attachment for many people.
That's a crucial point, and it forces us to redefine what we mean by love. M. Scott Peck, in The Road Less Traveled, makes a sharp distinction.
Between what?
Between dependency, which he calls parasitism, needing the other person for your own survival or validation, and genuine love.
And genuine love is?
He says, two people love each other only when they are quite capable of living without each other, but choose to live with each other.
Wow. So love requires independence first, the ability to stand alone.
Yes. It's a free choice, not a desperate need. It's an offering, not a clinging. And Theologia Germanica takes this even further, describing a love that's completely detached from self-interest.
The love of goodness for its own sake.
Exactly. I love goodness because it is good. Not because of what it does for me or how it makes me feel. It values the beloved or goodness itself intrinsically.
That's a very high bar for love. Very pure.
It is. It's selfless. And it connects to this idea that real love, pure love, can't really pick and choose, can it? It can't make exceptions. Well, A Course in Miracles puts it starkly. Love is incapable of any exceptions. It argues that the whole idea of exceptions only makes sense if there's underlying fear. Exceptions are fearful because they are made by fear.
So if you exclude someone from your love, that exclusion comes from fear, not from love itself.
That's the implication. True love is inherently universal, boundless. The Course connects this to healing, saying that true healing sees the shared essence in everyone, nothing in the healer that everyone else does not share with him.
It sees the oneness.
It sees the oneness, dissolving the boundaries that fear creates. That's the ultimate freedom from attachment, recognizing the shared being beneath all the surface differences.
Okay, we have covered so much ground, from Marcus Aurelius in his tent to Buddhist monks, modern therapists, mystical texts.
It's quite a journey through wisdom traditions.
But what's striking is the consistency, isn't it? It really does feel like they're all pointing towards a similar spiritual operating system, as we called it earlier, a way to build resilience, find peace, even when the world feels like it's falling apart.
Absolutely. And if we try to synthesize this, The Untethered Soul offers a compelling view of the journey itself. It describes life's events, even the difficult ones, not as problems, but as a gift that actually creates tremendous growth.
A gift, even the painful stuff.
Yes, because it pushes us to expand. It says, your heart and mind must be open and expansive enough to encompass reality. The work isn't about avoiding pain, but about becoming comfortable with pain passing through you.
Learning to allow feelings without resisting them.
Exactly. And if you can do that, Singer says, you become free. Because the worst the world can do is to hit the pain stored within you. If you're no longer afraid of feeling that pain, if you've processed it or learned to allow it,
Then you're free from the fear of it.
you're free. If you are no longer afraid of yourself, you are free. It transforms adversity from something terrifying into an opportunity for liberation.
That really shifts the perspective. It makes challenges feel less like attacks and more like the curriculum, part of the growth process.
Yeah.
Maybe humanity itself is going through this kind of process,
Yeah.
like a collective awakening.
That's a hopeful thought, and some sources definitely suggest that. Conversations with God observes, yours is a race awakening.
Awakening to what?
To these ancient truths, perhaps. It says, all you need, you have found here. There is nothing new here, but simply ancient wisdom revisited. This is the process of remembrance.
Like we're remembering something fundamental we forgot.
Maybe. And a key part of that remembrance is the shift it describes, moving from outer solution consciousness, always trying to fix the external world, to find peace.
To inner solution consciousness, focusing on mastering our internal state, our reactions, judgments, attachments.
Exactly. Reclaiming our power where it truly lies within.
But this isn't about becoming passive, is it? Just sitting back and working on ourselves while the world burns.
Not at all. The inner work empowers more effective outer action. It's a path of both contemplation and action.
How do other texts talk about that?
Well, Deepak Chopra, in the 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, talks about using practices like meditation not just for peace, but to become conscious of the seeds of karma, memory, and desire that drive our actions. It's about gaining conscious choice over our behavior.
So purifying the inner world to act more wisely in the outer world.
Yes. And Theologia Germanica urges us to strive and wrestle with all our might to align ourselves with the good, with God's will in everything we do.
Strive and wrestle. That sounds active.
Very active. But crucially, it says this striving should be from love and not from fear. It's a joyful alignment, not a fearful obligation.
And does this inner work, this striving from love, actually lead to wanting to help, to contribute? Does it make you more engaged with the world, not less?
That seems to be the result, yes.
Yeah.
William James, in The Varieties of Religious Experience, observed that understanding these fundamental religious and spiritual truths, this process of inner elimination of hindrances, doesn't lead to quietism.
What does it lead to?
It leads, he says, to an increased desire to do something useful.
So inner peace fuels outer action.
It seems so. When you're not bogged down by your own inner conflicts, fears, and attachments, you have more energy, more clarity, more compassion to engage constructively with the world. You become a clearer instrument for good. Hashtag outro.
So wrapping this all up, our deep dive today, starting with Marcus Aurelius but touching on so many other sources, it really paints a clear picture, doesn't it?
A consistent path, I think.
Yeah. Master your inner world, your reactions, your judgments. Accept with grace what you truly cannot change. Live virtuously, aligned with your highest self. Be fully present in the now. And cultivate that freedom that comes from letting go of attachment.
It's a powerful framework. And these aren't just interesting ideas from the past. They feel incredibly relevant, profoundly practical for navigating the pressures and complexities of modern life.
It really is like a spiritual operating system, designed to help us build resilience and find genuine peace, regardless of the external chaos.
To thrive, not just survive.
Exactly. And as we leave you today, here's something to chew on, a final thought from the Untethered Soul. It asks us to consider this. There was no reason to be afraid of life. And the fear will fade once you understand that the only thing there is to get from life is the growth that comes from experiencing it. Life itself is your career, and your interaction with life is your most meaningful relationship.
Think about that. What would it really mean for you to live that way? In that full, unreserved presence.
Something to ponder. Maybe just pick one small thing this week. Where can you practice that dichotomy of control? What's truly yours to manage, and what do you need to accept? Or can you try bringing a little more awareness, just a little more presence, to one simple activity?
Even small steps on this path can make a huge difference to your inner experience. Give it a try.
Join us next time on The Deep Dive as we continue exploring the ideas that shape our world and ourselves.